Now, the Poppies on the left, that means they have the first pick and the first ban, and with that, they'll say no to Terra.
To SPL fall split, we're going to see where the direction of these SPL teams are going here. Artio is going to be available, and Poppies with the first pick, surprisingly, actually banned that away.
Artio will not be available here, unlike you said. She's available for the game, of course, but she got banned out. It looks like Draco Marino. When we think about Draco Marino, I see him more as that backline, peel-oriented character. I like to see him on characters like not Robin, as he's selected here, but good Nash characters like Capri that can really protect his team. Artio, though she's a healer, much more aggressive, I'd say.
The support player for Poppies, Draco Marino, has been making strides of aggressive improvement to basically complement Dalo's aggression, and because we have a Robin here for Poppies, we're not really sure the direction if that's going to be solo or jungle. I'm expecting it will be for Dalo, but Draco Marino's god pool is just so vast that it doesn't really matter if he gets this Artio or not.
Fafnir and Camazotz selected by Obey, giving Captain Twig the ability to really go hard, or that might wind up in the hands of Xayah. And knowing where Xayah comes from, I'm thinking that we're going to see a solo Camazotz. Camazotz has been played in the solo a little bit as like a trickery character, and that's really what Xayah is known for. Hou-Yi and Arlong Shen on the side of the Poppies.
I would have to definitely agree with you. Xayah has been known to break the mold in that solo lane, being very talented and very creative at the same time. Raijin locked in for Obey Alliance. Seems that Pretty Prime really wants to expand his god pool.
I absolutely love this. This is, first of all, we always talk about meta, what that means, and how that actually affects the game. Raijin has been considered by a number of fans at home to be one of the worst characters in the game, but I think there's been rumblings of heavy rumblings about how strong Raijin is in actuality versus perception, and at least where I've been speaking to certain mid laners, Raijin, his ability to clear very early on makes him a force to be reckoned with.
We're getting some changes here in the different patches. He's going to be much more versatile now, especially with how aggressive Obey Alliance is probably going to want to play. That long-range artillery ultimate from Raijin is going to be so useful in these small skirmish jungle encounters.
So banned out the Morgan and Soul by Obey, and then we'd look at the Poppies as they take away Jingwei and Odin. Odin perhaps a little bit more recognizable as a meta ban. Very powerful there. Medusa, not really much to talk about there, but the Poppies elect for Giannis for Mr. Nazer, and with one more selection, this is where we'll likely see the support for Draco Marino.
Going mobility for Poppies isn't a bad idea considering that Raijin has a slow impact in his ultimate, receiving a 20% movement penalty during that ultimate with a threshold. The rest of Poppies can really catch up and try to blow up Pretty Prime if that's the intent.
You know, it's interesting. Usually, when Raijin first came on the scene, he was very powerful, and he's seen a number of different changes, but the thing that remains the same is that ultimate, specifically the slow that you were talking about. A lot of teams look to counter that. When Raijin goes up in the ultimate and gets all slow, we generally see characters like Scylla or Vulcan come out to really combat that. Giannis here is the opposite way of thinking. Get out of the way. Go walk through a wall and avoid it. So we'll see if that works out. Cucullin will be the final selection. Still doesn't tell me where that or the bat's going to wind up. But like I said, knowing Xayah, I think it'll be in the solo lane. What do you think, Tully?
I think it might indeed be Xayah playing that Cucullin in the solo lane.
Oh,
it's
really?
a very aggressive option because of being able to transform. You know, you got your Dr. Jekyll and your Mr. Hyde here in the solo lane. And once you do reach that 85 rage transforming, you get a whole new set of abilities, making the level 2 and 3 probably the most powerful in the game for the Cucullin.
I think that's where you hit the nail on the head right there, is the fact that how powerful this character can be at that early level versus the other solo laner. So when you're looking at what's going on, Xayah will be able to really control that lane a little bit more.
And we're going to see Warchi here in the Hunter role, trying to look for a little bit of a scout here. There's been a lot of teams that have been experimenting with trying to look for some of these early invades, and it's very important to make sure that you spot out relics. An early horrific emblem without a sprint could spell trouble.
Yeah, I mean, you absolutely have to arm yourself with that sprint. No horrific emblem just yet, but that item is very powerful, and we'll see that come on perhaps later on. all eyes on the mid lane, I think, on Pretty Prime on this Raijin. This character, again, he can clear the wave almost at level 2, so to speak, once he gets that Raiju and the drum bang. So very interested to see how Pretty Prime elects to use this, not in the early game, but in the mid game where he seems to fall off.
Already receiving about a 5-second advantage over their opposition, giving them time to go for their own speed buff, or maybe look to prevent this blue buff invade, but instead, they're going to allow the blue buff to fall, and right away, Poppy's contesting the speed with a 4-man invade.
Yeah, Pretty Prime gonna have to walk away. There's a sprint popped. They're looking to chase down Pretty Prime in level 1. The tower dive is good. 4 players deep. And that one will look strong. Draco Bruno gets out of there, but it all makes up for it on the left-hand side of the map as Ataraxia takes down Warchi with the help of his support.
Trading early game for late game. Ataraxia receiving a huge advantage in that dual lane now, whereas suppose the jungle here, Captain Twig, is going to have to struggle a little bit because Pretty Prime fell. This is that trickle effect where if your jungle falls, your mid falls behind, and vice versa, where Captain Twig now is going to have to probably concede some speed buffs in the near future.
Certainly something we'll look at right now in the mid lane, however. See, that's that early clear that I was talking about. Level 2 with a little bit of help from the jungler, and you can see how easily the Raijin makes it all go away. So the Poppies right now, nice and even here, with a little bit of a lead because of that first blood, but Obey Alliance certainly able to bite back thanks to the Hunter.
And it was a very easy calculated dive for Poppies to make because of the Mink form on iCreep X playing this Erlong Shen. You get the Fatalis effect where you ignore basic attack movement speed penalty whether or not you hit that Mink.
It was also the combination. They had 4 players over there on the right side making sure that they wanted to look for this player.
Not only that, they had the sprint on Dalo, the shell for Kree to be able to make sure they prevent a lot of the damage, and they also have another Geb shield just for good measure.
You know, the idea here is to leave Warchi alone, let the Hunter sort of build up his power and his gold, and see what he can do by himself. And that all kind of, you know, went to hell thanks to Ataraxia, so Warchi gonna have to fight back into this one.
Whenever you're in a 1v2 position as a Hunter, you have to concede your red and purple at times, depending on how aggressive the enemy is looking to be. Both Hunters going for the Bumba's Mask and the Bluestone Pendant Star means that they want to make sure that these buffs are gonna go down on rotation every single time they're up.
I like this. Zaya gonna fight back into the lane. He gets pinned out. Doesn't know Dalo's here. As Dalo sticks his nose back into the fray, well, Zelia's all the knowledgeable about that jungler's spot, so he's going to just sit back on the tower. Lose a little bit of gold there, but I don't think he's too concerned, totally.
That's the veteranship coming out of Zalia, his true experience. Warchi doesn't want to get zoned out in the dual lane, forced to go into that purification beads just to negate some of the slow from Ataraxia.
And he's going to be sent back to base here. Emilzi's not going to be able to... Oh, he's going to dive the tower, look for the stun. A couple of basics after the fact. Emilzi going for the solo kill against Warchi. And this is fun stuff.
I don't really mind this play here, F-Dot, because he's delaying the back even further. That 15 to 20 seconds is being wasted on Warchi not being able to farm successfully. However, because the red buff has spawned for Poppies, this is going to allow Emilzi and Ataraxia to play aggressive, giving Warchi some time to get his own wave.
The red buff goes to... Emilzi in some trouble, jumps right over the top. He'll get ulted, but avoid the damage. There's the ultimate out of the Geb. Emilzi's still alive. Raijin tosses the Raiju over the top. Draco Marino finally takes the support down for the count.
Emilzi not using his ultimate there. Could have got some immunity frames during that transformation, have another leap after the fact, have a stun on his hammer. Surprised to see a no ult out of Emilzi.
Double kill on the right side. The kills go to 2 different players. Zelia taking the second and Captain Twig taking the first. So a nice start for the Poppies, but Obey Alliance starting to creep forward here. Even with the death of Emilzi over there on the left side, I think the lack of an ultimate shows just how unimportant Emilzi thought that death was. Perhaps he's going to come back and use that ultimate next time when they want to fight around a more important objective rather than just, oh, I died looking for red buff by myself.
To be fair, level 5 Fafnir will respawn very quickly anyway, so it's not the end of the world. Obey Alliance don't lose much after Emilzi's death, and because he stayed between that tier 1 tier 2, he delayed a little bit of the farming from Warchi, giving Ataraxia a slight edge, at least in the gold and experience department.
That's what I was actually going to bring up, was the fact that, so Emilzi dying there was probably less of an impact than Warchi not dying, because it took Warchi more time to deal with Emilzy and then back 2 separate times than it did for Emilzy to just die once and come right back to the fray.
We're going to be looking for the level 9 play from Ataraxia with this 1 level disadvantage for Warchi. As a Hu Yi, you're really looking to get these abilities on a line, but because of the way his late game works with Mark of the Golden Crow, he's elected to start into Ninja Tabby, going for more of the attack speed, really trying to augment that penetration damage bonus.
Yeah, well, we see this frequently coming out from Hu Yi. Base stats are interesting because at low levels, they don't really mean much, but if you're playing at the top, every little bit counts, and Hu Yi does not have the lead when it comes to base attack speed, so those Ninja Tabby really help him out.
And because he's left alone, still in a 1v2 position, he was looking to just last hit only.
Ooh, rotation! Rotation from the mid lane. Here comes the ultimate out of Mr. Nazer. Nice ultimate out of Ataraxia. Will slow the enemy down. So although Mr. Nazer and Dalo do make their rotation to the left side, no kills come out, but a nice threat, giving Warchi a little bit of breathing room. Here comes Obey, however. Now Emilzy's going to look for the ultimate, pops right over the top, and gets the stun, but that's about it.
It's not every day you see that a Blink Fafnir engages and hits the hammer so consistently like Emilzy has been doing this game. Just his impact and presence in this game alone is such a threat for the Poppies that they have to just back off and do their own back left harpies. The red buff is about to respawn for Poppies, but I'm sure Obey Alliance are going to be looking for that one.
Fafnir is a character that's generally regarded as a guardian that doesn't really have a strong initiation. You've got your Athena taunt, you've got your Blink Geb initiation, and when it comes down to Fafnir, he's going to burn your objectives, but you don't think of him as a guy that's ready to just start everything off. Does the Blink help him that much?
Absolutely, because the way his hammer works, it's so much easier to hit that hammer stun the closer you are. And considering Emilzy has been playing Fafnir for quite a long time, he's prepared for this Blink hammer engagement.
Right now, Pretty Prime here next to Emilzy, who's level 7 on the Guardian. He's about half a level down from the enemy Geb. I don't really think that's too important as far as the Guardian levels are concerned until you really start getting up there. I'm more looking at the mid laner Pretty Prime. Like I said, all eyes are on this Raijin. He's directly fighting the quote-unquote meta. How will it turn out is the biggest thing I want to see. This is game 1 of the fall split.
It seems that Pretty Prime wants to go for cooldown, going for Shoes of Focus. The way that the Raijin passive works is after that 5th ability, it resets your cooldown to by 2 seconds on whatever is not available. So this is something that Pretty Prime is very comfortable with, just to be a spam mid-mage and allow his aggressive frontline between Xaylia, Twig, and Emilzy to just do their work.
It's also a large amount of mana comes on those boots. Again, just going with the idea of many abilities in a small amount of time. Pretty Prime will perhaps get the power a little bit later. We'll probably see a very standard mage build. Boots into power, into Pan, into Tahuti, but always down to keep an open eye.
Normally, it's actually the Giannis players that will like to go for the cooldown boost.
Right, because there's utility there.
Exactly. You spam the threshold, spam the portals to be able to go in and out of combat for not only yourself but your teammates, but instead, Nazer going for these penetration boots options means that he's really relying on that big bang damage whenever he has some roots from Creed or Dalo.
Penetration boots on a mage is always strong no matter who you are. Xaylia narrowly avoiding trouble here from the guys on the Poppies. Dalo is usually the one to run things. He's kind of being a little bit less sneaky as we're used to seeing.
Absolutely, but he has the sprint, so he's looking to be very aggressive here, and I'm really surprised that there was no tower dive under that tier 1 solo tower, and most of that was because the rage of Xaylia was available.
Well, here comes the counter initiation by Obey Alliance, taunt by Creed, and Xaylia's going to find an ultimate of his own with the knockout. Bat in the sky, and Creed going to go in the ground. Captain Twig puts number 4 on the board for Obey Alliance.
Perfect rotation from Emilzy, the nice hammer stun from a distance, just disrupting the flow completely from Poppies. Draco Marino forced to shield himself, and with Dalo being at half health, there's 4 members from Obey Alliance to capitalize.
Where's Obey going to go here, though, Toli? It's a little bit too early for the Portal Demons, so you can't take that one. Nothing is up in the jungle. Unfortunately, they're just going to have to take that kill and walk.
5 seconds until the Portal Demon spawns.
Creed's already up, though.
Obey Alliance could elect to push this Tier 1 mid tower or look to rotate with Ataraxia towards this Gold Fury because Warshi has to deal with that wave.
So this is a prime example of a fight that Obey wasn't planning on, right? If Obey wanted to go for this fight, we would have seen it 10 seconds later so that the objective would have been available, or even the jungle would have been available. Mid wave is pushed up. They fought on the Poppy's terms. The Poppies made that gank on the right side, and so they have to respond. They get a kill, and that's all well and good, but no stuff after the stuff.
In a perfect world, you would obviously wish there was 10 seconds later, obviously, but they still get a big edge there. Millsy just constantly hitting these hammers, proccing his Traveler shoes just to get that 30 gold. He's so accurate with these hammers, and Obey Alliance are just so accurate with their positioning and their counter rotations to deal with any aggression from Poppies.
Obey looking for the neutrals here. We'll pick up those on the right-hand side, and because of that, they're up a nice 1,500 gold very early on, 4-2. And it's just sort of a taste, I think, of what Obey is going to be able to deliver. This Raijin, so again, we haven't seen him in the meta for a long time, totally, but in general, level 1, level 2, strong because of his clear. And then the mid game, other characters sort of take the spotlight. But come the late game, that ultimate, his damage from Raiju really start to be devastating, and the Poppies are going to have to watch out.
It's just such a long range on that ability, but long range on through space and time as Pretty Prime gets deleted.
He's not able to do the damage if he's dead, totally. And that's exactly what was going through the mind of Mr. Nazer. Nice calculated play as Warchi just barely misses the ricochet there. Ultimate comes through, winds up hitting the mid-mage, and Dalo just punches him in the dome.
You know, it's not the most consistent damage source out of a Giannis, but when it hits, man, it hurts, and you feel the impact, especially before the base stats come online for your mid-mage. Only level 11, going for a very glass cannon build, despite dying there, having 2 deaths on the board, going for Doom Orb on Pretty Prime.
Pretty Prime really does enjoy this item. One of the nice things about Doom Orb is that it provides you a ton of power. Fully stacked, you're talking about 140 power, which is more than virtually any item. Pretty much, basically any item outside of Tahuti and things like that. Most items stop at 100 power. And the idea that, you know, if you die once, you have to cut it, well, you're still getting, you know, you're still talking about like 80, 90 power once you die once. It's about multiple deaths. Pretty Prime has always really enjoyed this item, gives him some sustain as well, so that paired up with the cooldown boots, he's going to have mana for days.
It doesn't really take that long to finish off the stacks if you think about
50.
it realistically. It's about a little less than 9 full waves, which is about a full 4.5 minutes of just mid-farm alone, and that's not including whether or not you get mid-harpies, the oracles, back harpies in between those waves.
I've always liked this item. I've been a proponent for this item for a long time. Just a ton of power. And again, talking about how Raijin really has that lackluster mid game and then a fantastic late game. Going an item like this, a fast built risk versus reward item, allows Pretty Prime to go ahead and sort of fill in that gap. And as I always say, Toli, listen, if you're going to go an item like Doom Orb or something, the game doesn't start till you start stacking. So that 2 deaths that he has already, doesn't really matter.
It's already been 2 waves, sitting on 16 stacks. He's about to get another 6 more off of this wave coming up, and it seems Poppies are looking to group up here in the mid lane. 3 aggressively positioned, making sure that Pretty Prime can't do what he wants to do and build those stacks.
At the same time, this the downside of Doom Orb, obviously you lose some of those stacks if you die, so because of that, you're going to have a giant target on your back, which you already do as the mid-mage, ask any mid-player. But that Doom Orb is going to make you even more so a desirable target for the Poppies to attack.
And Mr. Nazer going for a more safe option with the Book of Thoth. It does stack as well, except that it doesn't reset upon death. You're really looking to get a huge mana pool with this item. And not only that, a little bit of MP5 to follow suit, and then just look to get some of those big damage items to hit that through space and time.
Yeah, I mean, the Book of Thoth is interesting. The stacks provide so much less to the item than most of our stacking items. Draco Marino and Dalo going to stack up on the enemy team. Captain Twig forced in the ultimate very early on, and he'll have to find himself underneath the tower. Everybody else generally safe except for Dalo. Highway Alliance going to turn around on him, get hit by Emilzy, and he'll jump back to the support.
Mystic Rush forced to be used defensively. Emilzy doing a good job zoning away. Nazer 2 for 2 in his through space and times. Didn't win the team fight necessarily, but it clipped Pretty Prime to force him all the way back.
I don't like this play. The Poppies have brought down the Gold Fury about half HP. Nice zone coming out from Creed. It's a one-time taunt. Ataraxia has to dash away to the right-hand side. Gold Fury will be leashed. Captain Twig is back, but no ultimate. As Warchi jumps over the wall on the right side, Ataraxia dealing for his life, brought down low. Dalo's gonna die, but Ataraxia dies first. And Emilzy, he's all that's left. Raijin takes care of the jungler.
And we're seeing the backline dive from Xaylia. He was making a huge impact. He chased down Warchi, whose dive bomb was used on those left side mid harpies. This is the impact that Kukulkan can make once he gets to that mid-game form. And Xaylia has been doing such a great job sitting with his rage, usually around that 75 mark. So whenever these teamfights do start happening, he's going to instantly transform.
Big plays coming out from MOBA Alliance there. The 1-for-3 trade. Ataraxia, the captain, falling down, but allowing his team to take out the jungler, the mid-mage, and the hunter. Those are the three that you kind of want to take care of as well in a team fight. However, I want to give a shout-out to Creed right there. His presence alone keeps Obey Alliance off of the Gold Fury.
He engaged really well there to be able to ulti from behind, find the knockup onto Ataraxia, but once he used that knockup before the Medusa dash, it was very easy for Ataraxia to buy so much time to just dash away. Had Creed waited on the Medusa dash and then chased her down with a Mink or the Turtle Shell, either one is fine, then maybe they actually lock down the Obey Hunter a little bit quicker before Pretty Prime makes that rotation happen.
And that handoff was so important, watching Ataraxia know he's going to die, turn and fight, because he has the mid laner coming through. Jacob Marino looking to bring Ataraxia down another time. Warchi also uses the ultimate, but quick slither away, excuse me, and the Obey Alliance members walk.
Not too worried here if you're Ataraxia because of those Devo gauntlets. You're able to lifesteal quite effectively in that dual lane. Now receiving a bit of a buff here on the base and on the stacking power, you're able to really rush this item. And that's what a lot of these hunters have been electing to do immediately after finishing off their boots.
You know, it's interesting though. When we look at Devo Gauntlets, we look at Executioner, which also got a buff. Warchi could use that buff right now. 3-on-1 here on the left side in the Poppy's jungle camp. Mr. Nader comes through next to the ultimate. Raijin with a taunt and big damage. But the Poppies walk through the wall, allowing their hunter to get out.
Emilzy's not going to let Mr. Nazer out, though. The portal is good. The stun's even better. Nazer doing a 180, but into his graveyard.
Emilzy finally gets the last hit on Mr. Nazer. The up-down from Dalo, enough to claim the life of Ataraxia. Look at the confidence on this guy. Dalo has absolutely been a shining star for the Poppies. They're able to take down the hunter. Pretty Prime and Xaylia seem to still have their eyes on the prize.
Now, you don't always have to hit the Mystic Rush to get use out of it, but if you do connect on a target, that damage will be felt for sure. Dalo did a lot of damage there, but Creed's taking a lot in return.
Yeah, nice control out of the mid laner. Pretty Prime using that temporary mez just to control Creed for one moment, allowing his team to pile on. But again, Creed dies for it this time, but he does the job of the solo laner. He keeps the enemy team off of the objective. Obey Alliance have been able to get a 3,000 gold lead here, Toli, but theoretically they could have gotten 2 gold series if it wasn't for that one man, Creed.
However, despite not getting the Gold Furies, there's starting to be a huge level disparity between these two soul laners.
Ooh.
And this is heading into the 19-minute mark. Xaylia's already level 17, highest in the game, having a huge amount of physical defense. It's going to be very difficult for Warchi to really do anything against this solo laner.
And you want to know what's rough here, Toli, is that a lot of times when you look at a level disparity like this, you kind of blame, you know, the guy who's down a little bit. Dalo is down because he hasn't been able to farm because he's been doing the job that the Poppies need him to do. He's over there taunting players off the Gold Fury instead of sitting in his lane and getting the farm. So he's down, and it's kind of just because he's doing the right thing.
And they started off really well between Poppy's solo and jungle side. They invaded blue, they invaded speed, they found first blood very early on to Pretty Prime diving that tier 1 tower, but they weren't successfully able to continue that action in the jungle role because of the counter rotation from Emilzy earlier on in the game, making that 2-for-2 that Poppy's thought was going to happen into a 3-on-2 for Obey Alliance's favor.
Yeah, and again, going back to the other side of Xaylia, you mentioned something really important that is what separates the good from the great on this Colin character, is how well he's managing that rage.
Yes, you're looking to make sure that you're sitting about between 75 to 80 before the encounter happens. You're using one ability. If you hit 2 or 3 targets, then you're going to go over that 85 threshold and then start to transform. And then before you do that, you want to make sure you get off your ulti to knock everybody up before you use your rage ultimate.
Obey Alliance just burst down the Gold Fury nice and easy. They've tried to take the team fights and, you know, go for it directly, but this time they just say, hey, what if we sneak it? There doesn't seem to be any vision by the Poppies by way of Obey Alliance's path to the Gold Fury. Their only ward is looking out for Ward Chi. So because of that, Obey take the gold, and now they're looking in the mid lane. Pretty Prime barreling out the drums, but now he's a target for Ward Chi.
Dalo going in as well, rooting Pretty Prime into place. He's sitting 1v4 as Captain Swing is forced to retreat.
The ultimate out of Ataraxia. Clean up in the middle lane. 2 players already down for the count. Draco Marino gets the speed boost, and he's out of there. But the tier 1 tower in the mid lane crumbles, and it's all about Ataraxia's ultimate.
This is a team of monsters. Just look at it. You got a 1 bad, you got a Snake Lady, you got a Beast Man. It's just Obey Alliance are just monstrous right now. They got a Gold Fury for free after these 2 free picks. They're getting the late game Fire Giant for free to follow suit.
It's like a goblin, ghoul, a zombie with no conscience. Just monsters coming down the mid lane. 2 objectives after 2 objectives for Obey Alliance. Gold Fury, mid tower, Fire Giant, and then the Portal Demon come down for Obey Alliance. 11-5, that team fight brings them way in the lead. And all of a sudden, we've birthed this game open. 6,900 for Obey Alliance.
There's very few teams that you want to give a lead to, and Obey Alliance is probably one of the scariest teams to give such a lead to. And considering Poppies have had a good early game, but started to slip in this mid game, it seems that the game is just slipping away from their grasp.
Yeah, Zelia with a lead is a scary guy. For some of the newer fans, they might not remember how dominant Zelia once was. And Ryan mentioned it on the desk, Aggro mentioned it on the desk, the revitalization of Zelia and sort of how playing can kind of stagnate you. But you played directly against Zelia a couple of times in that solo lane when he was on his game.
I mean, I was speaking with Ataraxia and Pretty Prime when they were here for that charity land, and they were very confident in Zelia's transition to replace Maniac. He's been playing ever since he left his former team. He's only missed 3 days of streaming, apparently, from what Ataraxia said. Yeah,
he's been streaming a lot, and, you know, don't forget, Obey Alliance are the team that took Maniac, who also took a hiatus from competitive play. So, you know, there's something there. They've got that mindset of being able to bring a new player in. But take us down memory lane. Zelia, what was he like to play against at the top of his game? Because this is sort of reminiscent of that, 5-0-5.
He's very aggressive before in his older days, but now the way he was playing that 1v1, knowing that he was going to get ganked around that level 4 mark, he's definitely made a nice little transition switch. He's not always looking to make that flashy play. He's willing to sacrifice a little bit of gold under the tower as long as that is going to benefit the rest of his team.
I do still see him looking for the flashy plays, and he's getting them, though. With no complaints here. He's level 20.
Yeah, with this lead, you are more than welcome to make any flashy play your heart's content.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's looking for. Tier 2's gone on the left of the mid side. And Obey Alliance, while they do have 1 more to clean up on the right side of the map, they're still pushing here on the Gold Fury side. We'll see the team elect to back as a unit and look to see what they're going to purchase now.
Fire Giant still around their waist for another minute and 22 seconds. Looking like there's an Emperor's Armor on a Milsey. He's going to make some of these sieges a little bit easier. Still sitting at 50 stacks for Pretty Prime. He has the burst available. And now, after those Doomworm stacks, he's switched it up by going high diversion.
Yeah, this has been something we've heard the Europeans talk about just a little bit. Throwing one tank item on their mid-mages, the Height of the Urchin, it provides both types of protection, both magical and physical. You got to really be able to stack it up to make it worth. This is a very This is going to be one of the things that divides Europe and North America, I think. Mages with tank items is a very interesting thought process.
Whenever I used to go raw solo lane back in the day, I actually used to go a hybrid mix of whether it was Height of Urchin or Warlock Sash anyway.
Your role as a solo laner is very different than your role as a mid laner.
That's true, but as long as you're a very resilient Raijin and you get off that ultimate, you can even use it for utility purposes between the taunt or the fear.
At the same time, you're losing a lot of damage, but with this type of lead, doesn't seem to matter. Raxia's doing all the damage, taking down Draco Marino. Right side Phoenix, half HP. Big damage on a Warchi. There's that Raijin ultimate. The Aegis saves him for the moment, but Zilia takes him out after the fact. Dalo jumping away, not going to be escaping this time. Ataraxia finds his 4th kill of the contest, and Obey Alliance with all towers down, and the right side Phoenix start to filter in the throne room.
Creed trying to do whatever he can, but it's just not enough, unfortunately. Obey Alliance was the first victory of